Yo, bendición, what up, everybody? This is Alvin Kisura back with another video. I'm joined once again by India. If you haven't seen the last video, definitely check it out. So I want to talk about Semana Santa. As you can see, my orishas are covered up. It's just a coincidence I happen to have this crucifix. There's a reason why all of them are covered up. And I'm going to explain why I have mine covered up. India's going to explain why she does not have hers covered up. And that's my olokun. And over here, that's her stuff over there. My little spot over here is covered up as well. The bóveda is upside down with, again, a crucifix. So I'm going to set the phone down. Okay. So if you can do me a favor and explain why, this is off the cuff, so don't worry about it. So if you can explain why you do not have yours covered, and yeah.
Well, I don't have mine covered specifically. Why? Because one of the key foundations to who I am and what I do is I'm a piritita, a several generation piritita, and before my involvement in Ocha, I was always an adherent to Piritismo, the doctrine of Piritismo, and I've always been active. Um, I feel that the traditions are separate. I do understand that within the Lukumi tradition, reverence is paid to the ancestors, and there's a special space and place for uh, the ancestors um, in the scope of our practice. But I'm of the belief that um, this is an African-based religion that was transplanted or brought over to the Caribbean. Um, as a result of that, a lot of the practices were synchronized. So a lot of the practitioners um, um, began to take on uh, into their practice the Catholic faith and meld it together or hide it within a faith system so they could practice in secret. Understand? And I don't know where that started at, the covering of the saints. I'm not an expert in that, but to me personally, to me, to each their own. But it doesn't make sense to me that for a whole week I'm gonna stop honoring my ancestors. My blood ties, ancestor spirits, spirit guides. They're always with me. They're always going to be with me before um, the orishas and after the orishas. So I don't.
And what haven't you covered your orisha?
Because I don't want to. I don't want to. I don't like the idea of feeling as if I need to cover my altar when I am not only am I Catholic, but I believe in God. I believe in Jesus. I believe in um, that's just my belief. It just.
Okay. Yeah. So the reason why I have mine covered, for anybody who doesn't know, I did a video like this last year, same time, basically. Um, Holy Week, Semana Santa, is a time. Well, depending on your not your lineage, but you have. I think you have today's generation and then super old generation, where there's no misas, there's no readings, there's no nobody getting initiated, there's no workings at all, there's no brujeria, there's no workings, good or bad, it doesn't matter. It's a time where santeros and espiritistas, they do not take clients, and of course I'm generalizing, there's no clients. It's an inappropriate time to be doing anything that has to do with the piritismo, with ocha, with anything, receiving anything. All ceremonies done, all readings done. Um, it is a time where the Boveda is flipped upside down with a crucifix, and the reason why I do that, it's basically an acknowledgement. Holy Week is a sorrowful time. This is just acknowledging Jesus Christ. The same reason why I have it's the same idea with covering the orishas in a white cloth. If I had to put it into words, it is like a physical, symbolic representation of the acknowledgement of Jesus and his superiority over everything. God the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, that is above all of this. That is above all the Espiritismo. That is above all the Rishas and Misterio and Loa and everything between. God. So whether a person believes that Jesus Christ is God, you know, with the Catholic syncretism, Jesus Christ, King of Kings, Lord of Lords, God the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, Jesus Christ, Son, Holy Spirit is above all of this. And this is a physical, symbolic way of just acknowledging that God is above all of this. So it's a somber, supposed to be a somber time. I'm told by my mother that in her mother's time, my grandmother's time, there was for that week absolutely no music, no celebrations, again, no readings, um, no eating meat. It's just time to be contemplating Jesus and doing rosaries. Anything else that you can think of that'd be traditional at that time?
I don't know, because these practices and stuff like that came later on in my life. So like, all I know was my grandmother. She prayed a lot. I mean, she prayed a lot. Period. You know, as a spiritita. You know, so that semana, you know, she continued to pray. She continued. She would go to church services. You know, she would go to Easter services. You know, and you know she would read her Bible. But like, I don't traditionally and stuff. Like, I don't know what people would do. You know, this is all new to me. The whole idea of the whole idea of covering my ancestors or covering my altar and stuff, to me personally, it just doesn't sit right. It doesn't sit right with me.
Yeah, I think
Because I love my practices. I love the spiritualist doctrine. I love like the idea of me covering up my grandmother's image that brings a lot of sentiments to me, and it's very intimate and personal to me in my in being able to navigate this world. Like, I love God, I love Jesus, I love the saints and stuff, I love the archangels, but I don't feel that I need to symbolically cover my stuff and refrain from praying and refrain from reflecting on them, and sitting still in front of my altar as I, you know, like practice mindfulness, or just, you know, like I want to talk, express myself, or just decompress. I don't feel that that's a necessity and stuff. So
yeah. So you mentioned a time to pray, like the idea of Semana Santa is the time to pray, just not to ask of anything from Orisha, from Muerto, from Egun, from ancestors. There's a time where there's no eboses performed, because eboses are prescribed to the Logun, to Ifa, but there's nobody doing readings. I remember even our Oluo, there was a time I tried to schedule a reading with him. This was years back, and he said, "No, I can't. It's Semana Santa, so no, not even at bosses, no candles. You notice there was no candles. There's no light. There's no water. There's no omitutu. There's no bosses. There's you put the white sheet over the orisha, and that's it. They are ignored for that week, or at the least Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then for the little bowl with the spot that I have, the water out. Like nobody gets any acknowledgement because all the focus is just on God. Now, how that plays into whether you're Muslim or Jewish, how that works, whether you do the same thing, but of course, this is Catholic syncretism. Um, there was something I wanted to touch on that, of course, is going to be I think there's the old generation, the today's generation that see it as, it's blasphemous. Like, why are you covering your rishas? Of course, I know either way. Obatala's on my head, and they're all still there. It's symbolic, and the idea is that Jesus Christ, God, Holy Spirit, three in one, is above all of this. And I know that does piss off a lot of young people today, Olochas, I say no, they're two completely separate traditions, and it's an insult to the Orisha to be covering them at all, as if they're below the colonizers' religion. But if you've seen my channel, you already know I call it. I acknowledge la regla de ocha, look mi religion. I call my faith Santeria. I use saints. I acknowledge Jesus Christ as King of Kings and Lord of Lords that is above all this. Um, so let me know in the comments below what your personal beliefs and thoughts are. Agree, disagree, agree with India, disagree with India, agree with me, disagree with me. Let us know your points of view. And if you're Jewish or Muslim, Hindu, how does that affect, if you are pro syncretism? Do you use a different deity? Maybe you put a freaking, I don't know, freaking cover your peoples in white and put a Star David or something to show God is above all this. I don't know. Any last thoughts?
Can I play devil's advocate?
Yeah, that's why we're here. If you disagree with me, let me know.
Okay.
I'm telling you that you are breaking tradition by not putting
How is it tradition?
the white cloth and acknowledging Jesus Christ, because that's the tradition.
Okay, so that's the tradition. Okay, so where's the basis of this tradition? Where's the historical basis and proof of where this came from? The whole idea of covering your orishas. Where did it come from? Or is it just a situation where you're repeating what other people have done and how they have practiced it and what you perceive to be traditionally what needs to be done during the week without a historical basis and proof where that comes from? And then on another degree is, okay, so I personally am not a person that I am like, I have Ocha on my head. I have Obanani on my head. And I'm the type of person that I don't really fuss too much with my orishas. And I think I should, but I tend to just approach them like I approach my boveda or my, like those practice. I speak to them, I acknowledge them, I pray, not necessarily in front of them. I throughout the day, if I feel the need to pray to them, I pray to them, I talk to them, I salute every so often and stuff. And my thing is this: if in the course of that week something comes up and I am compelled by spirit, by my guides, that I need to do an intervention, say for myself or for somebody else, will I sit there and take on this, because we're in Semana Santa, I can't do it. I can't extend my services to you. I cannot assist you. I can't do an intervention on your behalf or my behalf. I could be going through something that week. Understand? And I need to petition or seek counsel for my orishas. Will I not seek counsel simply because it's Semana Santa? Like, to me, like, it does personally, it doesn't make sense to me. Understand? To each their own. I respect everyone's beliefs, and I love the crap out of my fiance, but he has his ways of practicing. I have my ways of practicing and stuff, and this is, like, we tend to go back and forth on these topics, just like we seek counsel from each other when we do little videos and stuff. So, but yeah, that's my contribution.
I think there even I'm interested in seeing what Padrino Eric has to say about this, because there are like, diehard santeros, and yet you ask him. I'm very curious to see what he says. You say, hey, just out of curiosity, can I get a reading? Can we do a misa? Let's do something. And ask any santero, and they'll probably say, I can't. It's Semana Santa. We gotta wait till next week. So even there are little things, even if they say, look, oh, I don't believe in that, I'm not going to cover my rishas, this is Lukumi tradition, this is not Catholicism. why do you still not do any readings? I think there's still a tinge of Catholicism that's followed. You were asking about historical context. I mean, I'm no historian, but at the same time, the historical context is all over the place. You know, it's called Santeria. There are Catholic saints, and you know this. You know, tell a 90-year-old Cuban to take down their picture of Santa Barbara. Um, it's all over the place from the beginning because Catholicism was used to hide the ochas. Um, so I think that it's all over the place. The proof that Catholicism has permeated Ocha so deeply that even Jesus Christ is considered King of Kings, Lord of Lords. And I wouldn't care if my path was Obamoro, with representation of Jesus Christ. That's not an exception. Even Jesus Christ above Obamoro. Yes, they're two different traditions, but I would still be covering them with a white cloth and still doing the same thing.
Good. I respect you on that, you know. But like, and it's like historically, I understand that like a lot of the Africans that came, um, made the slave trade into the Caribbean and stuff, and will continue. To me, I find it so courageous that even with all the atrocities that were committed during that time period, that somehow, some way, that the slaves were able to still seek ways to adapt their religion to the new world and still practice their faith, and they found through the Catholic faith a means to continue to practice. I honestly feel that like what happened was that like in their means to help their religious traditions survive and integrate synchronism into their practices. I honestly do believe that many of the Africans, uh, if not the first generation that came during the slave trade, but at least the ones that came after, like they grew up with that synchronism that was just commonplace in their household, that eventually they integrated that into their own uh, identity and way of practicing the local me faith. And they became baptized Catholic. They were practitioners of the Catholic faith, of the church, and they followed they followed the traditions of the Catholic faith, and eventually it became um, one and the same. And I don't have no problem with people synchronizing or having Santa Barbara and Chango hand in hand right there, because if my grandmother follow or my mother follow a specific tradition, and that's what gave her hope, meaning, depth, understanding, and helped her to be able to survive. And like, why not take on that faith? Why not continue to honor the faith of my forefathers and my ancestors and stuff? And that's a beautiful thing. But I'm speaking from my perspective, and I think the reasoning behind why I speak is I'm a first generation Lukumi practitioner within my family. My family was not adherents to Santeria. My family never followed Santeria. My family was just curanderos, antigueros, rezadores, like, and several generations of that. And I didn't, they never felt the need to initiate in this faith. And even now, if my grandmother was alive, she was like, why would you get involved in that? Like, we don't believe in that. But uh, just have a deep connection with those roots, because I encountered a lot of adversity in my life growing up, and that's what I saw my grandmother practice, and that's what my grandmother tried to instill in me, and as she tried to guide my spiritual identity in this world.
Mm. And I forgot to mention, even like no tambores. There's not going to be any if Santeros follow this rule. There's no tambores either. There's no guidos. There's no celebrations because this week's supposed to represent um, sorrow, and there's no celebrations. It's like having a celebrations and ebosas and whatnot before a funeral. And even though Easter is the climax of it, of risen, there's it's not a time for festivities. And yeah, so we can go on and on and on. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Let us know who you agree with or disagree with, and your personal experiences as an aleo, an orisha, an olocha, whoever, whatever. Okay, peace out.